What is up? My name is Andrea, and I am with OurDayDream. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Jane Termyna. She is a grief specialist and a certified life coach. If you like this message, please share it out, hit like, subscribe, because we have new guests coming every week. So without further ado, here is Jane.
How are you?
Good. So I know a little bit about your story, but can you share with us your testimony? What brought you to coaching?
Okay. Well, I've been a massage therapist for 20 years. And in my practice, I do a lot of talking to start out sessions because I didn't want people coming into their appointment feeling rushed, because a lot of times, we're rushing around and I just dropped the kids off and I forgot to feed the dog. And so I would have people sit and talk to me for 5-10 minutes just to decompress before I put them on the table, because I felt like they weren't getting good massage work. And what I found was that people really needed to vent, because your body and your mind work so much together that you kind of have to separate the two every once in a while. So for my 15 years in private practice, and then for a little bit after, it was just something that I really miss doing massage full time. I can't do it full time physically anymore. So I do it a little bit part time because I don't want to give it up because I love it so much. Yeah. But the other side of that was the interaction with the people, and feeling like once they were able to dispel or eliminate or let go of thought patterns or things that were going on in their life verbally, that it helped their body a lot. So that brought me to the coaching. The grief side of the coaching came about after my 25-year-old son died in a car accident. It will be 7 years now, come July, that he exited the planet. What I've learned that I would like to share with others is just the things that are kind of what to be expected, the things that people don't talk about. And for today, I was thinking, while I was getting ready to meet with you, that time seems to be a bugger when people are dealing with grief. Yeah. First, they don't know how to deal with grief. And secondly, people keep putting this time limit on it. And there is no such thing as a time limit when it comes to missing people that you love.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to somebody about the one day, and I thought about it that, I think it's like, for me, I think it's more like a transition of a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's like, we already have our time set on this planet. We're not infinite creatures. So we already have a day and a time set. And so that's already acknowledged that we're not going to be here forever. So to me, it's kind of like a blessing, you know what I mean, that we gain these people in our lives. And then it's kind of like the relationship transitions because they're still there. You know what I mean? Like they're still there in our mind and our heart, which makes them still alive and true. It's just a different type of relationship now as opposed to what it was.
Yeah. When we lose the physical ability to see them, to feel them, to smell them, to hear them, it's discerning for sure. It's such an uncomfortable and confusing time when someone first dies. I'm assuming not for maybe for the person too, but for who's left behind, it's a confusing time. So what I've discovered and what I've studied, and from my own empirical evidence, is that even through what I've learned doing massage therapy, is that if you don't allow yourself to feel emotionally what's happening around you, your body is going to process it for you, right? Most times people will accept the fact that stress will give you an ulcer or a headache or it'll break down your immune system and you'll get a cold faster or the flu faster.
Yeah.
But long term of that, repressed emotions, whenever we're not expressing ourselves, that can lead to deeper things that are not just superficial. There's a lot of schools of thought that think that, unresolved emotional baggage, we'll call it for lack of a better word, is kind of the root of disease.
Yeah.
There's a statistics that 75% of people who do not process a traumatic grief episode, typically within 18 months will be diagnosed with some kind of disease or cancer. Because your body is going to process what you're doing if you don't allow your mind to. And we live in a society right now who only wants to focus on feeling good.
Yeah.
They are completely discounting the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
It's starting with how we're raising the kids now is, everybody's got to be happy. Everybody has to feel included. Everybody, I hate to say everybody has to get a trophy society. There's one thing to be acknowledged for participation, but not everybody is good at everything. But what we need to get our kids good at, what people need to get better at, I think, is learning how their body feels when they're having an emotion. So do you know what your body feels like when you're angry? If you know what your body feels like when you're angry, then you'll be able to handle your anger a little easier. When you're sad, your body's sad too. Where do you feel it? A lot of people will get a headache, or they'll be nauseous, or you cry. Perfectly normal, healthy, and good. These are the things that we're supposed to do when we are not getting our way, that the world hasn't presented us with things that we want. So if you look at it that way, we're designed as human beings to have every emotion. We're supposed to be angry sometimes, and we're supposed to be disappointed, and we're supposed to be sad. The what's considered the negative emotions lets you know where your boundary is. If you're angry about the way someone treated you, or if you are sad because you were left out, or you're disappointed because you worked so hard for that grade, but it didn't work out. Those are things that we have to be teaching people to do. Now, if we flip that around to grief is something in the United States that people don't really want to acknowledge. People don't like talking about making a will. People don't like talking about what they want to do with their remains. People don't want to talk about the tax structure or the situation, or I don't want to look at the fact that I'm not going to be here anymore because it's too scary. So they let all of those things on the side, where in different cultures around the world, death is just part of life. It's incorporated into everything that they do. I love that. So, that's where we get stuck. So that's where I kind of come in and let people know this is probably something you're going to experience. You're going to experience it in your own way, but it's going to come up. So you may get restless. You may want to sleep a lot. Just because you're sleeping a lot doesn't mean you're depressed. It means your body's processing a really traumatic, emotional injury that you've received because your heart's been broken, whether it's your child or your mother or your spouse, your best friend, a good coworker, anyone who you've applied meaning to, anybody who means a lot to you. If they leave the planet before you do, you're probably going to feel it. Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that too, because I was talking about the other day, because you had said earlier about how society, basically would prefer to feel good all the time. And then I brought it back to like when we're children, it's like either you're getting scolded for being upset and crying, or or you have the parent that tucks you up in their arms and says, and then they try to make it better. So it's like from the time we're born up, to adulthood, we're basically trained like, don't be sad. And then society kind of follows that structure too. Because if somebody puts out a post, my life stinks so bad right now, everybody's like, oh, don't be sad, or you're a beautiful person. So everybody wants to fix it right now. And I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right. So it's like instead seeing that as that's part of your growth, people are like shaming you for it. Like, don't feel like that. You need to feel good right now.
People don't like to see other folks not feeling good because somehow it's a reflection of, you take it on personally a lot of times. But there's so much information about yourself, about the world, when you're disappointed or when you are not feeling joyous. But that's okay. It's perfectly okay. And for feeling loss of any kind, like whether it's the death of a person or you lost your job or your home or your safety or your health or your freedom, there's all kinds of things that you can grieve that you don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But when you're in a situation where you have an opportunity to be human, which is what it comes down to. Like, let's teach our kids what it's like to be angry. Let's teach you to do it in a healthier way, because you're going to get angry. Because not angry. As soon as you exit your parents' house, they're not there to protect you from the world anymore. So let's figure out a way for you to understand what disappointment means to you, and grief falls under that header. So starting out wanting to talk about time with grief and how you feel, a lot of people will say, I should be over this by now, or, they were old and I know they're at peace. That doesn't change you're missing them. I was speaking with a woman this weekend, actually. This was her first Mother's Day since her mom died in December. And, she had gone to the cemetery and did the mom thing with as rituals help. She did that, and she was with her brother, and they were both like, why are we still feeling so badly? Like, well, because that was your mom.
Right.
I don't care if she was 97 or 120, that's still your mom. Right. And you're going to miss her. So miss her. Perfectly acceptable. I think a good run is about 18 months of confusion. It seems to be, from my own evidence and from people that I've talked to and how people work it out, because everybody talks about the first year and getting over the hurdles and the milestones and the dates and all of those events that the person isn't around for. But then you start a whole other year, like there's a whole another 6 months. And I think that it takes a good 18 months to really get in the groove of almost accepting that this is the way life is now.
Yeah.
But that being said, if time healed all wounds, wouldn't we all be okay? Even from anything we experienced in our childhood or any other kind of hurt. That's not how it works. Right. Yeah. Time only works if you are doing the work that's involved, and grief is work. Yeah. And the work is feeling the pain for as long as it takes. Right. And it will get better. It'll change. It'll get softer. It won't be as sharp. It won't be as heavy. And then all of a sudden, a day out of nowhere, it'll be heavy again, but just ride the wave and it'll take you to the next spot. Time doesn't stop, keeps marching on. And people have been being born and dying since the dawn of time. This is not something new. It's just society these days, our Western culture doesn't like looking at it, where there's other cultures who, like I said earlier, they incorporate death right into the life. They are involved with preparing the body. I think when the funeral industry became commercialized in like the 20s and 30s and up into the 40s, the families were required to prepare for a funeral. The families cleaned the bodies and dressed them, and grandpa was in a casket in the living room and everyone came to the house. It was part of your life, the passing of people that you loved. And now all of that is taken out of your hands. There's nothing we really need to do except hook up with a funeral home, and then they kind of take care of the rest. They guide you, but all of that is done for you, and then it's over. And then you're left with, an empty house, an empty room, empty, name it, Yeah. Yeah, and time doesn't fix that. But the work of grief is really getting into it and feeling the loss, which means, yes, you're gonna be sad. And you could be sad for a really long time. And you could come out of being sad and then just be okay. and then go back into being sad. But it's a process that you kind of have to participate in. It's not
Yeah.
something that just goes away. There isn't, well, it's been 18 months, so I should be over it by now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people get into trouble. They will choose to try to not feel the pain. So they'll drink alcohol, they'll start doing drugs. What's the first thing that happens a lot of times when there's a death that comes that people aren't really prepared for, or even if they are prepared for it, people go, do you need something? Do you need a medication to help you get through it?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And honestly, that's good for maybe a day or two, but after that, you have to get into the pain and let it come over you.
I feel like it just
Otherwise,
adds
you're on
side
medication
effects.
forever.
Yeah,
What's that?
I feel like it actually just like adds side effects to you, and then there you are, you're still feeling what you were feeling. Now you got side effects too, and you're just like, why am I not fixable? Because the doctor said like they would give me this depression med because I'm sad. So like if it's not actually working for me, like why am I just so broken? So I feel like I don't that was
What
my
happened?
experience with it. Yeah.
Yeah. What happens with grief is if we choose to self-medicate to try to, and really all you're doing is delaying the pain. It's not going away. You're just masking it. But if you
Yeah.
mask it long enough, every day that you wake up sober without anything in your system, you're starting from square one, almost from emotionally, your body is starting from the day.
That
From
makes
the
sense.
day you heard the news,
I like
or
that.
from the day of
Yeah.
the day of the burial. So
Yeah.
it's probably in your best interest to just jump in and accept it.
Yeah.
Acceptance is a whole other part of grief, but accepting the pain of the loss is
Yeah.
really, really important.
Really. My biggest loss was my mother whenever I was 17. And like I can't imagine going through something like that, not having a huge bag of weed to drown myself for like 3 days. To be completely
Yeah.
transparent, is I only remember tidbits of like the first week after she passed away. And I kind of look back on it and I don't really regret it all that much, and I kind of appreciate the fact that I did it. But that was that was my way of dealing with what it was that I was going through. So not condoning that,
Right.
but just saying that's how I dealt with it. But
Mhm.
I'm sure that there's a better way to deal with it, like that first week. So do you have any advice?
Well, the first couple of months, especially, I call it the fog, where your brain has heard a piece of news that you don't want to, and your body is responding to it. The fog, to me, is trying to put those two parts of yourself back together. So a lot of times when you hear bad news, what's the first thing that people do? They sit down if they're standing, right?
Yeah.
They lose their
fall
breath.
down.
Your body
Yeah.
responds. Your body will respond. So, I mean, you can attest that was okay for a couple weeks, and then after that, what? Then you're starting from square one again, right?
Yeah.
As far as
think, like,
as far
I'll
as the
never know that.
logistics, what's that?
I'll never know that.
No, but
I'll never know that. I was definitely in the fog after like
Yeah.
all that was gone. I was definitely in the
Sure.
fog, but I felt like it was kind of like the epidural. Like I kind of missed like the labor pains of it, but then once it's come time to push, like I felt it. So that's, to me, looking back on it, that's what I feel like it was for me. But I don't know, because I didn't experience it.
But that's okay, because once you stopped doing that and got on with your life, that's when the work starts. So even if you were medicating I'm talking about people who medicate themselves for 20 years, who refuse to acknowledge the pain for 5 years, for 10 years, and then it really interferes with their life because they're trying so hard to get away from feeling the pain of something. And no matter how much time goes by, that's not going to happen until you feel it, right? So there's a saying in the industry, you got to feel it to heal it.
Yeah.
You got to feel it to heal it. So even if you took a couple weeks, went on a vacation, you still came back to an empty house. You know, if
Right.
you went on a bender, you still came back to an empty house, and you still have to face the loss. So the real story and the work for you was after all of those events, you know, a month later, because then, you know, 6 months down the road, you still might have paperwork to do, and it's always around. You have to learn how to manage yourself, manage what you're feeling like, so you can get back into the world,
Right.
which, you know, just took some time for you. And if as a 17-year-old, that was your choice and you were unguided, there wasn't anyone there to
Yeah.
help you with it,
No.
then what else
Yeah.
were you going to do? You did what
Yeah.
you knew how to do,
Yeah.
and you came out of it. So that's good.
Yeah, I did. Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of bad decision making within that year afterwards. Trying to, you know, allow other people to fix what was broken inside of me rather than
Right.
attending to it and stuff like that. Because like you said, I didn't really have nobody to guide me.
Right.
So I just like was just trying to feel good in something that really just did not feel good at all.
You know what though? Whether you were 17 or 85, people still make interesting choices
Yeah,
when they are emotionally unregulated, or they don't know what to do with themselves, or there was no one there to help. We do it on our own, and you know, you try to fix it and you screw it up and you go, okay, I won't do that again, and then you do something else until you figure it out. That's what life is.
yeah,
It's not a big deal, but it's everything that you did from then on and even before made you who you are today. Every
right.
lesson that you learned, all of your
Yeah,
experiences are folded up inside of you, and
absolutely.
and they will present themselves to help you either way.
Right,
Even if it presents as something that's considered negative, there's still a really good lesson in there somewhere, because that is where you're establishing your boundaries for
right,
what feels right, what doesn't feel right.
right. What do you think would be a good thing to say to somebody that is going through that? Like, but if I think back on it, like there was really nothing nobody could say. I just had
No,
to feel my way through.
they're really, it's always nice to get condolences. And there are lots of well-meaning people who will say, if you need anything, call me. But I
Yeah,
don't know anyone who actually makes the call.
yeah,
So it's more of a doing thing. Grief is something you do. So if you know someone is struggling, call them, send them a text, send them a gift card to a grocery store. Do things for them, because they're not going to ask,
I love that.
you know, because you probably didn't ask, right? Who were you going to ask? Nope. Right. Nobody does that.
No,
Even in the line at Michael's funeral, there were so many people, and you could just see the look on their face that they wanted to help, but there's nothing that you can do, because it's something you have to do. The
right,
individual has to do it. People can witness you, which is great. People can support you. Really, you just need someone to listen, or you just need someone to sit with you in silence.
right,
That's all that people really need, and just encourage them to start living again after, you know, after the events are over, and you have to start piecing your life back together in little tiny bits. Get yourself out into the world in little
I know,
bits, depending on, you know, and it depends on the loss to you, how substantial the loss is to you. But you want to, because you have to try to feel the world again. The world feels like a different place when someone you love isn't around anymore. It's like the air is different, and colors are different, and everything smells different. It's just a weird thing that happens, and
yeah,
you have to try to figure out how to get yourself back in there. You can make a choice. You can choose to exist, or you can choose to live. In the beginning stages, you're kind of just existing. You're floating along, looking for any life support that you can find, and
yeah,
eventually you find bits and pieces. But don't isolate, because if people are isolating, that's really when we get into trouble. You know, we're human beings, we're tribal, we're all supposed to be together. So, you know, even if it's one person that's going, come on, let's go ride with me while I go get gas in the car, just to get them out of the house. Like little tiny things. Doesn't have to be big.
I love
They
that.
don't have to drop everything that they've stood for the past 6 months when they're holed up in their house, which probably isn't a good idea because
Yeah.
isolation doesn't work at all. Just drag them out. So it's not, Andrea, it's not really you can say this, just be around, reach out,
Yeah.
send an emoji. In today's day, you don't even have to say anything. There are people who will reach out to me on Michael's anniversary day and on his birthday, and they'll just send a little heart emoji or thinking about you. And that's all that people need. You just don't want to be forgotten,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just to like stay in contact with them. That way, if they do want to talk about it, or if they do, have some venting to do,
Yeah.
they can get that off of them, stay available for that
Yeah.
by reminding them that,
Right.
you're there. That's awesome advice.
Yeah.
Because a lot
Yeah.
of people don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like they just don't.
Sure.
'Cause like you said, they want to help, but they just don't know what to do. So that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that.
Good. Yeah, there really isn't much you can. It's something, all you can do is support people and love them and let them know you're around and be persistent. Don't say, hey, I'm going to take you to lunch. Say, how's Tuesday? I'm going to pick you up on Tuesday and take you to lunch. Or, what, just as an example, because you have to really hold them to it. And they say, well, Tuesday's not good. And you say, okay, how about Thursday? Like whatever your schedule, so that you can keep them involved with the world, because it's really easy to isolate and just, fold up. And that's not good for the memory of the person. It doesn't do their legacy much,
Yeah. I'm like kind of crazy because I don't know. It's like my kids, being that I was 17 when I lost my mother,
Mhm.
like I don't want them to experience loss whenever I go. I don't really want them to. So
You know how ridiculous that is, right? Like, you just said that out loud, right?
But I feel like it's the same thing with preparing your kids to go out and be able to take care of themselves in the world, or preparing
That's
them
exactly
to be adults and stuff like that. So I've been preparing them for years. And the way I do this is I make it kind of creative. So I'm like, we got this all planned out, right? Because whenever I die, I'm going home is my belief system. I'm going home. So, and it's been a long time on this planet, I feel like. So I'm going home, and so I'm going to be happy about it. So I don't want them carrying pain with them whenever they go. So I'm like, listen, like I want to be cremated. I want a tree buried over top of me. And then I want a plaque with all the idiotic things that you mark down that I've said over the years that just makes you laugh out loud. And I want that parked right there at that tree, so that whenever you go to the tree, you can read all the dumb stuff I've said, and then you can laugh a little bit or smile and remember good times. And then I was like, and we don't want no funeral. No, we want a picnic. This is how we're doing this. And so, like, I've just been kind of preparing them throughout the years. Like, this is how I want to be celebrated whenever I leave. Like, it's going to happen at some point in time. I'm not going to be here anymore. And so I want to be celebrated for the life that I lived on this planet. And so, I don't know, they're just kind of immune to the conversation. They kind of laugh a little bit about it too,
Well, it's beautiful that you have a plan, and it is very good to have the conversations, because everything changes.
Yeah.
People die, people are born. It's daytime, it's nighttime, it's winter, it's summer. Everything changes, and people expire. It's just how it goes. The conversation's good to have. It won't be a shock to them, but my darling friend, they're not gonna not feel pain because their mom's gone.
I just think about these things, like it's like I want to prepare them for all things, you know what I mean, including that. I think it's good to understand, you know what I mean, that there's going to be hurt and heartaches and pains, and stuff's going to happen. Things aren't always going to go your way, but we can at least try to make the best of it.
Well, that's our job as parents. We are supposed to be presenting the world with functioning members of society.
Yeah.
Which means they are accountable for themselves. That includes their own emotional regulation. And if they're unable to do it, or if they get stuck there, they at least know where to go for help. That's a
Yeah.
functioning member of society. And that's what
Right.
we should be doing, not protecting them from harm. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so you don't want them, if they fall off their bike and break an arm, you get that fixed. But do you want them not riding the bicycle for that? No, you want them to get out there and do it. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get broken up with. Their hearts are going to get stomped on. We are here to tell them or show them or try to help them figure out how to do what's best for them so that they heal. We have to teach our kids how to heal themselves.
Right. And
Yeah.
stop suppressing,
Right. And learn how to, but you don't have to let it all at one time. I mean, that's a whole other conversation about emotional regulation, but there are things that need to do. We can't tell our kids not to feel, because it's not possible. That's what we're here to do, because we're human.
Right.
Yeah. So feeling a loss of any kind, and this is important. They're going to get fired from a job. Maybe, I don't know. They're going to, your favorite jeans aren't going to fit anymore forever. I'm not wearing the favorite jeans I wore when I was 25, like even down to the simplest things that change, that are over, that finish. Everything has a beginning and an end. People, plants, your car, you can't do everything forever. And we have to teach our kids it's okay to feel the loss of something. And here's what you need to do to manage yourself while you are healing.
Right. And I like to call like the death of something is, I always like to see it as a transition. It's like, even whenever I'm going through pain, it's like something's dying and something's being birthed. And that's like down to any aspect of my life. It's like, if I'm feeling heartache or pain, or I'm just depressed or sad, it's like, oh, well, like I'm transitioning right now. I think a lot of people like to pay so much attention to the fact that they're in pain and what's making them in pain. That kind of keeps them shackled to that, rather than seeing them in movement always, like nothing's still.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm just transitioning. And so I
Well,
feel like that's good too.
Sure. And if you look back on the most painful moments of your life, any of the pain, the analogy I like to give to women who have given birth is, do you remember the labor pain? Of course you remember the labor pain. Would you have wanted anybody else to do it for you? Most people say no. Like, that's your badge of honor. You went through all that to get that person out of the inside of your body. It was a project, right? It was pain. It was physically painful. Sometimes it's emotionally painful. It's a lot of work. It's labor for a reason, right? Would you want anybody to take that away from you? Of course not. Of course not. You look at what the pain will bring you to. People who train for athletic events, they put themselves to the brink of, there's a certain kind of pain, discomfort that comes with that, with pushing yourself so hard. Look what you got in the end. People who have been working on their health, they've gone through a certain kind of pain. They get to the other side. You can look back and go, oh, look what I did. There's a lot of growth that comes from pain. Pain is really important. Our job as parents, though, and our job in society, and especially with grief, is to help people understand that it's not going to last forever. The way it feels now, it's going to change. And you'll get to the other side with hopefully with some clarity and some understanding, and maybe, a new outlook on how to move forward with the rest of your existence while you're here.
Yeah. Absolutely. So how can we get a hold of you if somebody needs a grief specialist? How do we get in contact with you?
I have a Facebook page now, which is new to me. I finally joined the modern world. So Jane Termyna is on Facebook, and you can find me there. I have an Instagram page, same name. And you can contact me that way.
Awesome. So I'll definitely share them links down below as well. And I appreciate this. And I really think it's going to help a lot of people that are, going. It's like whenever I go down through my news feed, I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, but it's like everybody's going through loss right now. So it's kind of heartbreaking to see that. And I just kind of wonder if it's turned into a I Am Legend situation or what's happening here, because it's like every post just about, and it's kind of sad. So it's good to, it's good for people to hear about this right now. Yeah, anytime.
It's, loss is normal. Loss is what's going to happen. It's not something that people are looking forward to, for sure, because it is uncomfortable for a lot of different reasons. It disrupts lives. It changes lots of things. Sometimes it's not just a person is gone. Sometimes your entire life changes when
Yeah.
someone makes their exit, when someone transitions. So, I always feel badly when I hear about people who just aren't able to move with it, who
Yeah.
aren't allowing themselves to just get in the flow of it, because there's, that's, if you think about it, your grief expression is the very last thing that you get to do for somebody.
I love that.
So how about let's try to do it well, which
Yeah.
means we have to feel it. We have to cry our way out. We can come up with rituals. We can look for signs depending on where you are spiritually. Most people on the planet believe in some kind of afterlife or some kind of connection with those who have gone before us. Signs are a thing. So, look for your signs. And as long as they're bringing you peace and joy on top of the sadness, because you're going to have the sadness, you're not going to, I would say to people in group, who would express, I should be over this by now. It was 20 years ago. I'm like, I don't know. What's a good time? When do you think is a good time for you to be over your mom being gone? When is a good time for me to be perfectly all right with my son having left the planet before I did?
Yeah.
And most responses are, oh, well, you there is none. Well, good. Then why do you think that you're going to get over it? You just learn how to incorporate it into your story. We get in trouble when it becomes our entire story. I know, we know people like that who have just not been able to really move through or bring their loss forward with them into their life, and it becomes their entire existence is acknowledging the loss of something. That's dangerous too. So, we want it to be part of our story, not our whole story. A big part of our story for me. It's a huge part of my story. I can't, I'm not going to go anywhere without thinking about it every day, but I've been given it to do. And for those who believe in the higher power and we don't get more than we're asked, to do, then we're pretty special if God thinks that we can do all of this. So I'm going to do the best I can.
To be completely transparent, my mother passed away in 2000, and it was like about 3 years ago. I was like going through a time period where I just kind of felt, I remember like I had this thought in my head, like I should like just go get so drunk right now. I just felt so alone. Like I just felt so alone that day, and I don't know what it was, but I just had this on me. Like I just felt so alone. And I actually went up to my mom's grave, and it was really beautiful out that day. It was a blue sky. It was so warm and nice. And I was in the middle of praying, and I fell asleep. And I fell asleep for like, I don't know, I think it was like close to an hour or something like that. I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I was like, I must just needed some rest. Like I must have just needed some rest. So, and I felt pretty good. And it was like on my way back to my house, like I said goodbye to my mom. And on the way back to my house, I seen all these beautiful clouds that look like heaven. Is it like, basically it was like, you're okay. And so, I mean, just to understand, like, yeah, you're gonna go through these times or whatever, but I mean, they're all for a reason. They're still there. You know what I mean? Like my mom she was still my comfort. You know what I mean? In that moment,
Yeah,
she still was
your
my
mom,
comfort.
of course.
Yeah, it was like she might not be here physically, but she was still my comfort. She comforted me right to sleep.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, that's a really great example of knowing what your body feels like when you need something.
Yeah.
If you're unable to interpret your emotion with your body, and we can do that through meditation, and there's all ways that we can learn to do that with coaching, especially. With you, if you had known that you were just really exhausted, you could have just took a nap instead of thinking
Right.
that you needed assistance with it. So
Right.
once we really get in tune with our bodies and know how our bodies feel when we're having an emotion, even loneliness. Loneliness presents for all kinds of different reasons. For you, you were tired and you missed your mom.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Thank
see,
you.
so now when that comes up again for you, you may recognize it and go, okay, this is what I just need to do. Maybe I need to go up to, talk to her rock, or maybe I just need to put my head on my favorite pillow.
Yeah.
Those two things. And once we learn what we feel like, and it's an ongoing thing, this is a lifelong thing. You don't just figure it out one day and go, okay, I'm good for the rest of my life. It's an ongoing process, which is beautiful too, because we're going to have different pains about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's learn how to manage what we're feeling, and you know what, the world would be a better place.
Yeah. Not so many people trying to attack everybody else in the world because, they're going through something, but instead of like, I'm going through something right now.
We're the only ones who can really fix ourselves. Even if you go to therapy, you still need to do your end of it. If you sit and talk to somebody for an hour once a week and you're not doing anything on your end, you're just talking to somebody for an hour once a week, and you could do that till the cows come home, right? Till time ceases.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing the work.
Yeah, that's what's awesome about a coach. It's because I did therapy and stuff like that, and then I also did a coaching program, and so a coaching certification, and it just taught me so much about how, like, a coach basically is like walking with you through it and holding you accountable, and you know what I mean? But it's for the things that you already know that you need to do, so you have somebody there to, like, talk to and stuff like that. But as opposed to therapy, it takes you back, and then it's like, up, time up, hours up.
Yeah.
So I love the I know it's becoming more and more mainstream as coaching, and I'm glad for it. So I mean, if therapy is not helping you, I definitely recommend a good coach.
Sometimes it's a good add-on too,
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you're in therapy and you feel like you just need a little bit more that's not as clinical, you can work on your day-to-day life stuff and just kick around different thought processes, because you're going to try to figure out and you change all the time. We're always figuring out who we are. I'm not the same person I was yesterday or the experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
So we just have to really be aware of who we are, rest when we can, stay hydrated, move your body around, keep your brain moving. And it's all of those things are going to help you feel your way into the next part of your life.
Right.
So you just just try. And if it doesn't go well that day, just, forgive yourself and try again the next day.
Right.
Not rocket science. We have other people to do that.
Right. I love that. All right. Well, you have an awesome day. Thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I'll talk to you later. All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye.